Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of the Business Acceleration Podcast. If we haven't met yet, g'day, my name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme. I'm a coach to private practice owners and I love what I'm doing. And I also love all things spirituality. So spirituality, if you're new to the podcast, doesn't mean religion. It means finding your purpose. It means aligning your life, aligning your reality back to your soul purpose so you can do your soul work and you can create the private practice that feels just so energizing and just really lights you up. And you know how life doesn't happen in a straight line. You know how it kind of goes up and down and up and down. Well, that's been happening for me over the past week. I've had this desire, like this real compulsion, this real compelling to tap back into all of the manifesting work that I've been doing. So I've been going back over all my old resources from before I wrote the books and stuff like that. And it's been so nourishing for my soul to do a little bit of revision, I think. And you know, when you do things like that, you sometimes realize, I know a lot of this in my head, yet I'm not really practicing it out here in real life. And I want to share with you today quite a vulnerable podcast. And I'm just sharing it because I don't think other people share their journey as they're going through things. I think that generally people share reflections. I think they look back on something and then they be open and vulnerable about that experience that they previously had, and they're looking at it from different eyes. But I'm kind of right in the thick of it at the moment, and I know a lot of you guys are too. And so for that reason, I thought I would just bear all and give you some insight into the challenges that I've been experiencing in my private practice and working life at the moment, and how I'm dealing with those as a result of anchoring back into my spiritual practice in the hope and with the intention that I can lead by example and show you guys that if I can do it, and if this stuff works for me, it can absolutely work for you too, okay? So I guess the first thing to acknowledge is we're in this massive period of transformation at the moment, right? I mean, who would have thought that, you know, the whole wide world would have been in lockdown as a result of a low-level virus? You know, we've got this big global pandemic. And in Australia at the moment, the way it's sort of manifesting is that each state, so we've got different states and territories, and each state and territory is handling it a little bit differently. While our Prime Minister is giving some overall directives to everybody, each state and territory has its own jurisdiction about how things go. And I happen to be in the strictest one, which is Victoria. So we are all still very much in lockdown. Other states and territories have done things like started opening up their shopping centres and started reopening some of the schools and started allowing gatherings of 10 people and things like that. But in Victoria, no, it's still very strict. And here's the other thing. As I mentioned to you previously, with COVID, I guess, came the big push for a lot of us in private practice to take our businesses online. Now, depending on where we were individually, some of us really resisted that and made life harder for ourselves than I think perhaps it really needed to be. While there were others that just kind of were nonplussed and just kind of, you know, went with the flow. And then there were others who were, you know, jumping on board and they were really embracing this idea of taking everything online. And of those three categories, I was the last one. And the reason that I was the last one was because I already had an intention deep inside to stop doing the face-to-face in-clinic work. And so in that respect, COVID kind of pushed me. It was the big kick from the universe to actually, you know, stop what I was doing and take massive action. And I did, like many of you. I took massive action. And, you know, the other thing that I realized was the fears that I had around taking action were unfounded. So what had stopped me from doing this earlier and taking my business online earlier were beliefs that I was holding around online therapy. And they were baseless beliefs. I don't even know where these came from because I didn't know anybody who was practicing solely and wholly online. So it wasn't like somebody shared their experience with me and I just vicariously took it on. I've got no idea where these beliefs came from. But I was saying things to myself like, if I take my business online, I'm going to lose a lot of work. And then if I lose a lot of work, that's going to affect me financially. And if that affects me financially, then I could lose the building that we use to deliver services in the practice. And if I lose that building to deliver services that we use in the practice, then that might mean that I have to close the practice. And if I have to close the practice, then that might mean that I don't have any income. And if I don't, and do you see what I mean? Like it was this just domino effect of baseless beliefs that I was very strongly emotionally anchored into, was that fear mindset. But what happened was having the decision taken away from me almost. I mean, I know it wasn't, it was still my decision to do it, but for the most part, it was like, you do this or you don't have a business. So I did it. And what I realized was when you do take that step, you realize that the fear is an illusion. And what actually happened was my business is thriving and I'm doing exceptionally well. And I never thought that I would. And so the lesson that I've learned is, fear is an illusion. Now, I know that in my mind, but still fear comes up. And that's what I want to talk with you about today, because I'm kind of in the middle of dealing with some more fear. And that is, with everything that's going on, as you're probably aware, if you listen to this podcast, you're probably like me and you're into spirituality and stuff like that. So you're probably also aware that at the moment there's, an ascension happening, an ascension of consciousness. And what that means is there's more of a sense of waking up. And there's also an idea that there are people among us that are, I guess, more awake than others. And those people are, leaders, and it's their role in part to try and wake other people up for themselves, right? To try and guide them to their own waking up, their own evolution, their own transformations. And so you might identify as one of those people who's quite awake and wanting to help other people wake up for themselves to everything that's happening around them, the opportunities, the new realities that they can create for themselves and all that sort of good stuff. But the thing is that you also need to wake up to a new reality for you. And so, I was doing some journaling this week as part of getting back to my roots with manifesting. And one of the things that came up for me in the journaling was that, I realized that I've created my own reality. And while I knew this in my head, in my heart, I had kind of an aha moment. I thought, oh my gosh, that's right. Like, this stuff is true. Like, the beliefs that you hold become the lens for you to experience life through your practice. And we're talking about your business here, but in life as well, right? You get what you believe. And, I know as well from all the work that we've done here in quantum physics that your reality can be reshaped. It's reshaped through the way you think, through the way you feel, and through the actions or behaviors that you engage in on a day-to-day basis, right? That's what shifts your reality. It's not magic or anything like that. It's just how you shift, you might call it perception or you might call it your experience, but here on this podcast, we call it reality. So I know that I can bend or change my reality simply by recognizing that I have the ability to choose a different reality for myself. You might know that as tuning into a different vibration. Now, this all sounds a bit woo-woo. I get that. But I'm going to talk you through how I've been applying this week, and we'll see what happens together. I'll share the whole journey with you together. But in a nutshell, this is my situation. So, a couple of years ago, I started doing the manifesting stuff, and it wasn't a business and it wasn't a coaching business or anything like that. It was just something that I was doing because I was loving it. And so I started sharing it on Facebook, and it kind of grew from there, right? I got a approached by people saying, this is awesome, can you teach us how to do it? I said, of course I can. Then I started a little group called the Manifestation Playbook, which later changed its name to Manifest Change. And in there are about 300 health practitioners. And well, most of them were health practitioners. There are a few lawyers in there, but mostly it was GPs, like general practitioners, doctors, psychologists, OTs, speech therapists. And we were all manifesting stuff for private practice and just loving it. And then anyway, what happened was from there, people started to ask me for one-to-one help, which I started providing. And then people said, can I have coaching in this? And I said, oh, okay. So that's what I started to do. And I was running a private practice full-time at the same time, right? And so I was doing this other sort of manifesting coaching in my spare time. So it was never really I never really looked at it as a proper business, and I never set it up to be a proper business. It was just something that was unfolding. And then last year, I had this huge year, and I credit that to learning about how to tap into flow, which I'll teach you about as we go along. But it was through tapping into flow that I had all of these really big and exciting experiences, trips overseas to Los Angeles, trips to London. I went on 6 overseas holidays last year just because, and I was able to generate income while I was working and all this sort of stuff. And so last year, it was maybe toward the middle of last year, I thought to myself, okay, I think I want to do coaching, and I think I'm ready to let go of psychology. And that's kind of a big thing to do, because to become a psychologist took many years. I think it was 6 years to become a psychologist, hundreds of thousands of dollars, paid for it myself, worked 5 jobs so that I could, get myself through university. When I was doing my 1,000 hours of placement in my master's, it was unpaid. So I had to do that 3 or 4 days a week and work around that to support myself. But I did it. And then I spent another 6 or 7 years doing my PhD and, enjoyed that. And then I've spent 20 years working as a psychologist. So when I say now that maybe I want to let that go, it's kind of a big deal, but not for the reasons that you think, and not for the reasons I thought either. So what I did was this week I sat down with my journal and a pen, and looking back over some of that manifesting stuff, I found some of my old journal prompts, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll give these a crack. So that's what I did. And what came up for me was that I really 100% want to leave psychology and only do the coaching, right? That's all I want to do. I just want to coach private practice owners in their private practices. And you might say, oh, why don't you just go and do that? Well, the reason that I haven't gone and done that, I realized, is because of fear. And for me, how that's manifested is I have taken steps to develop the coaching business. So since September last year, I've started to do things like create structure for the business and, treat it like a proper business, give it a website, create services for it, create offers for it, all that sort of stuff, right? So I've started to put structures, processes, procedures around it, treat it like a real proper business, and, have things like proper launches for it and stuff like that. What I've realized is this has gone over pretty well, and it's made me even more aware that psychology isn't where my heart is anymore, that the coaching of private practice owners is what I'm feeling called to do at this point in my life. However, what's happened is I found that I've been hesitating around stepping more fully into the role of full-time. Well, full-time would only be 12 or so hours a week, but full-time coaching for financial reasons. Like I've just been thinking, well, you know what, if that doesn't work out, how am I going to support myself? I will just stay doing psychology because I can support myself. I don't have, as some of you know, like I don't have a partner. I don't have, parents that I can lean on that will bail me out if I get stuck. It's just me, right? So it's all on me, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I think that is what has been causing me to have one foot in the psychology camp and to have the other foot in the coaching camp. It's that fear, what if, what if, what if? And I know that that what if is just anxiety. And I know that fear is just an illusion, because when I've done things in the past that I've been afraid to do, they've generally worked out for me. And the thing is that with that awareness, it opens the door for change, right? Having that awareness that, it's fear that's keeping me in this place allows me then to look at, okay, if I lean into that fear, what's going to happen? So I ask myself, when the money's taken care of, I'll get to do my soul's work, right? So I want to journal from that space. If the money's taken care of, I get to do my soul's work, and then I get to look at some of the beliefs that I had. So I wanted to ask myself things like, if I was operating from that space of the private practice coach that was solely and wholly supporting herself financially from that work that she really loves doing, the coaching, what would be different for me? What would be different if I'd already chosen that for myself? If I knew that version of me, if I knew that reality for me was a done deal and that the money was taken care of, what's all the stress about? What on earth am I stressing about? If I know that that's my soul's calling, and if I trust that things are always working out for me, and if I trust that the money's going to come, and I fully believe that, and I play all in, then what on earth am I worried about? And you know what? I don't have any reason or any excuse, or nothing's coming up. There's no sort of emotional charge now for that. When I think about it, I think, yeah, that's so true. And then the other thing was, for a while now, I've been preparing to leave psychology. And part of that preparation has been to peel back the psychology work that I'm doing. And when I look at all the appointments in my psychology diary at the moment, there's a lot of appointments, but hardly any of them are for psychology. So I'm kind of already stepping into that space that I want to be in, where I can have a balance between doing the spiritual work, doing the spiritual counseling, helping people. It doesn't just have to be with businesses, because earlier on this year, I took a step and started saying to everybody, okay, that I love talking about spirituality and I'm happy to do spiritual counseling. And my diary started filling up with people who want spiritual counseling. And so they come to me privately. And, we have these really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful conversations around their purpose, around aligning their purpose with their life and their reality, around shifting their beliefs. And it's the deeper work, and it's work that you can't do under the guise of being a psychologist. And I just find when I'm in those sessions with people, I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it so much. And they get so much from it, and there's so much growth, and there's so much transformation, and it's powerful stuff. And I just know that's where I'm meant to be. And so when I get out of my own way, i.e. I kind of let my fear-based ego go, and I know that my ego is just trying to look out for me and keep me really safe. And so that's why it's saying, don't quit psychology, Brooklyn. You never know. Everything else might go belly up, and then you're going to be broke and you're going to lose everything. I've got to just set ego aside for a minute and just say, yep, I know. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, buddy. But I've got this, and, I'm going to be just fine, because I'm already kind of doing it. So it was that realization that I'm already stepping into that space. Number one, I've already started to take the massive action. Number two, and number three, I want to think about, okay, what does it mean to actually step into the identity of the version of the you that you want to be? What does that actually mean, and what does that actually look like, and how on earth do you do it? I understand it cognitively, but how do you apply that stuff? And so the strangest thing, I was watching TV, and I forget what I was watching, and I'm watching a show called Hollywood at the moment on Netflix, and I was loving all the different clothes that people were wearing, and I was thinking about, oh yeah, I'd love to wear some of those costumes, and then I don't know, it was so weird because I thought when you try new clothes, they can really make you feel a certain way, and I know when I'm wearing certain clothes, I feel amazing, you know. It's almost like you take on a new identity sometimes. Like I know sometimes if I'm wearing like my little suit jacket and my jeans, I feel great. I feel kind of semi-professional, semi-cash. I feel put together, especially if I've had my hair done too. And I love that feeling. If I put on, and I become the person who's, you know, semi-professional, semi-cash, that easygoing girl who knows her stuff, who's really confident. If I just put on my tracksuit, then I become that girl who's, you know, relaxed, doesn't really care what other people think. You know, I take on that kind of persona, that kind of identity. If I get really dressed up for a big event, then things become quite serious and I adopt a kind of more serious persona. So then with this realization yesterday, I was thinking, hey, maybe that's what I need to do to make it easier for me to step into the reality of being the person I want to be, right? More fully, because I'm probably about 60% there, aren't I? I probably have another 40% to go. It's just that last stepping over. So then I was thinking, okay, and I got up and I went to my wardrobe and I was thinking, let's just try this for an experiment. So I got out my little blazer and my t-shirt and I got a nice necklace and I put on some makeup, and then I thought, yeah, this is the version of me that I really want to be. This is the soul version of me, and this just makes it so much easier for me to adopt or try on or experiment with the identity of that person I'm in the process of becoming, right? And so then what you can do is, once you've found your way, so maybe it's wearing a little jacket, or maybe it's putting on your lipstick, I don't know, whatever it is for you. Maybe it's a meditation. You're that kind of person. You want to try and meditate your way into taking on more of the person you want to become. Or another thing that I like to do is think about all the things that ideal version of me does in a day, and I'll try and write them out just in dot points or something, and then I'll look back at what I've written and I'll try and find 2 or 3 things she's doing that I'm not, and I'll try and take those 2 or 3 things and incorporate them from that point on into my day. And so it's just like that kind of gradual stepping into, in a really safe way, that new version of you. But yeah, whichever way you do it, whichever tool or strategy you use, it's fine. But the next step to go further with that is to think to yourself, okay, I am that person now. How do I make decisions from this space? Knowing that the clients are there, knowing that the money is there, knowing I'm fully supported and taken care of. You know, how does that version of me deal with challenge? What decision would she make about X, Y, and Z situation? Do you know what I mean? So starting to think about taking it further and really reflecting about the deeper processes that are going on inside that version of you, and start making decisions from that space. And so that's what I've started to do. So yesterday I was thinking to myself, okay, if the clients are already there for the coaching business, and if the money's already there, that's done. You know, how am I making decisions about my future, and how am I living my life, and what sort of things am I saying to myself, and how am I feeling? And when I did that, everything else, like the fear has just kind of dropped away completely. And so now what I've been able to do is really, you know, I've been talking about an end date for my psychology career, and I kind of was thinking, oh look, it'll be my birthday, you know, it'll be 30th of August, I'm just going to, you know, stop practicing as a psychologist, I'm just going to retire from psychology. And anyway, now what's happened is I've been able to drop all the fear around stopping practice as a psychologist, and it feels really good to do that. And I know now that everything's going to be fine. But it was just a matter of me getting through that fear. And so I know that a lot of you guys who listen to this podcast are also at different stages of your own transformation, either with your life or with your practice or with your finances or with a relationship or something like that. And so the reason that I wanted to share and declare and all that sort of good stuff today was to show you that I'm with you. I've been where you are. I know what it's like to be paralyzed by your fear. I know what it's like to be spinning your wheels. You know you want to get somewhere else, but for some reason you just can't. You're stuck in the mud. I've been there, and I just wanted to share with you what's worked for me, and it's something that I've experienced this week, and I will keep you informed about how it all works out. And I'm counting on you guys to give me some support as well, because that would be nice. It's always nice to have a bit of support. So I hope that this has resonated with you on some level, but the takeaways would be start thinking about what decisions would you be making if you were already that version of yourself, number one. And number two, what can I do today that can help me step into that headspace of being that new identity? Okay. And as I said, for me, it's like getting dressed up in a certain way and putting on my lippy and doing my hair nicely and all those sorts of things. But for you, it might be something else, right? For you, it might be meditating, working with your crystals, might be journaling, might be a visualization, something like that, might be grounding in nature. Do find your tool that's going to work for you, and then start allowing yourself to use it, and maybe start stepping into that version of you with small things first, not like something like I'm doing, like massive career change. Don't do that, because it might be too much. But start with small things like decisions about what you're going to eat for lunch or dinner, or where you're going to go today, or what you want to achieve today, right? Start with those sorts of lower level decisions first, so that you can exercise that muscle of stepping into that new identity of you that you're in the process of becoming, right? And of course, let me know how you go with it all. And I believe that this work is so important, because it's all this inner work that helps take you to that next level, right? I mean, strategy is only 20%, it's 80% an inner game. And this is what I help people with in the private practice monthly mentorship. And if you're wanting support to take your journey further, I would love for you to be part of the group. It's growing. And we still have some founding member places available at just 97 Australian dollars per month. And once we hit 20 people in the group, that amount's going to go up to 197 Australian dollars per month. And you can cancel at any time. But come in, you're going to be supported by coaching. We're going to coach you through finding your own decisions to problems, and through finding your own solutions to challenges that you're experiencing. And how cool is that? Like, nobody's going to tell you what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing and bombarding you with their opinions and you feel overwhelmed. No, it's not that type of group. This is a group where people just like us come together and we help each other live on purpose with intention for our private practices. Okay? It's so cool. I mean, where else do you get to do all of this kind of stuff? I will put the link to it in the show notes for you. And I would absolutely encourage you to come and check it out. I can't wait to see you there. Send me an email as well if you have any feedback or questions or aha moments from this episode today. And I will see you on Saturday. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day, guys. Bye.